On March 31st, I sent out a tweet saying, I no longer hear any experts claiming cash is trash anymore. What happened? Question mark. That tweet goes out right after 3.28 million people applied for unemployment and right after 6.65 million people applied for unemployment, 10 million people in the month of March. We're at 16 million people in 21 days nowadays. Markets tanked. Everybody wishes they had a little bit more cash. And when I sent that tweet out, people started coming back saying, Pat, are you talking about this person? I think he's talking about this person. I think he's talking about Ray Dalio. And then a week after that, Ray Dalio is asked, do you believe cash is still trash? And he says, I believe cash is still trash. Today, I am responding to the concept of, is cash still trash according to Ray Dalio? This whole concept of cash is still trash is another example of people not asking the right question, because the question they're asking maybe doesn't apply to the phase of their life they're currently at. Let me explain to what I mean by this. You know how people ask a billionaire and they say, so what's your current schedule looks like? And he says, I wake up at 7:30 and I go do this. Oh my gosh, I thought you had to sleep 4, 5, 6 hours. You're asking him while he's a billionaire. Why don't you ask him while he was starting up his company, trying to make the whole company work out? What was your schedule then? That's the right question. So let me explain to you what I mean by this. In America, when it comes down to net worth, wealth, there's different brackets you fall on. I'm going to talk about some of the ones here. One of them is affluent. In America, if you have $100,000 to $1 million of liquid net worth, you are considered part of the affluent class. If you have $1 million to $5 million of liquid net worth, you're part of the high net worth class. If you have $5 million to $30 million, you're part of the very high net worth, which, by the way, there's 4.795 million of those in America, of which 393,500 of those are specifically just from New York City. And then you have the ultra high net worth, which is somebody that has $30 million to $999 million of liquid net worth. There's only 73,110 of those, 8865 in New York City. That puts you in the 0.003% of America. Let me say it again. Not in the 1%, not in the 10%, not in the 0.1%. You're in the 0.003% of America. Then comes the billionaire class, which you got to have $1 billion or more to be part of that category. So now, when I'm explaining this to you, you may be looking at me saying, Pat, I don't know where you're going with this. What percentage of the clientele that Ray Dalio deals with do you think are just affluent? You think he's dealing with people that don't have $100,000, or you think Ray Dalio is dealing with ultra high net worth, or you think he's dealing with institutional money, running a hedge fund, or you think he's dealing with billionaires. You think he's sitting down with middle American families saying cash is trash? Let me continue here so you get the idea where I'm going. By the way, some fun facts about the ultra high net worth folks. 65% of them are self-made on how they made their money. Out of these ultra high net worth, they average a total of 8 cars they own. That's a study done by Rolls-Royce. 3 out of the 4 ultra high net worth own a jet, and 22% of them made their money in the following industries: finance, insurance, banking, and investments. So now, we kind of have an idea about these different level classes, but where are we going with this? This is one class. Now let's talk about the other class. The other class is household income range. Where am I going with this? Here's where I'm going with this. Less than $20,000 in America income, less than $20,000 of income per year. There's 19.7 million of those. That's considered below or near poverty level. That's nearly 20 million Americans that make less than $20,000 of your income. Then you have 20 to 44,999. That's 28.7 million of them. That's considered low income. If you're making between 45 to 139, that's 57 million of them. That's considered middle class. You're middle class if you're making 139 per year. 140 to 149, there's 2.6 million. That's part of the upper middle class. 150 to 199 is high income. And last but not least, those of you that make $200,000+ per year, which there's 9.9 million of you, you're officially in the highest tax bracket. So remember, so far we've looked at 2 different things. You got wealth, liquid net worth, and then you have income, going from below poverty level to those that are at the highest tax bracket. So where am I going with this? Cash is trash. You think cash is trash to this community? Maybe yes. You think cash is trash to this community? Maybe no. Cash is king here. Maybe cash is trash when you're an ultra high net worth And that's probably the people that Ray Dalio is speaking to the most. So does that apply to majority of America? Probably not. Maybe to the 0.003% of America. So some of you guys are watching saying, oh my gosh, I have cash. I should get rid of it because such and such person said cash is not good. Let me go a little bit deeper to validate my argument for you. You ready for this? They did a study to see different levels of assets that people have from $10,000 all the way down to $1 billion, what percentage goes into which asset? Let me go a little deeper. It's people that have $10,000, people that have $100,000, $1 million, $10 million, $100 million, and $1 billion. Then the assets they looked at were the following: liquid, primary residence, vehicles, retirement or an IRA, life insurance, mutual funds, stocks, fixed income, managed assets, maybe in a trust, real estate, and business interest. When they looked at these different categories, here's a conclusion they came up with. If you look at the screen, you will get an idea based on the color differences of where that money is going to. At the lowest level, with people that only have $10,000, notice how the biggest percentage of their assets are in liquid cash. Do you notice that? And notice how the second level of $100,000, the biggest percentage becomes their primary residence. And then it gets lower because most people with $10,000, they typically cannot afford to buy a house. And those with $100,000 typically own a residence. And then when you go to $1 million, most people's net worth is not tied to their residence. And then all the way down to $1 billion. If you look at it closely, you will notice the wealthier have the biggest chunk of their wealth tied to business interest. Let me say this again. The wealthier, the biggest chunk of their assets is tied to business interest. Merrill Lynch did a study with 800 ultra-high net worth individuals to see how they invested their money and where their assets was. 55% was in stocks, 21% bonds, 15% cash. Once again, 15% cash, 6% alternative investments, and 3% is other. So when you look at this data, you see this here from where their assets are. You see this here where their assets are. Now you see why Ray Dalio is absolutely right, depending on which community he's speaking to. And Ray Dalio's advice doesn't apply to you if you're in a complete different situation. I've never met a venture capitalist or somebody who started a company that sold it for $1 billion or $100 million or even $50 million. I've never met somebody who didn't say the value of cash to have when the tough times come, that cash allows you to survive challenging times. How many startups, the cemetery of startups with great ideas, great companies, great teams, great founders, great systems, everything was great. They ran out of cash. How many companies are buried at the cemetery of startups that lack cash? Many of them. Many of them you'll never hear about because they ran out of cash. So the concept of cash has to do with what phase of your life you're in. When somebody says, well, I think Pat is trying to debate Ray Dalio. Here's a man worth $19 billion, writes a book that sells nearly 4 million copies with Simon & Schuster. I had every single one of my executives read his book. I had every single one of my sales associates read his book, over 14,000 agents. I had people write a paper on it because of the way he views things. It's a 600-page book. His philosophies work. He and I sat down together and had an incredible conversation. I don't know how many views the video has. I would say it's shy of 1 million views because it's in depth. This is a man that knows economy and finances, and he has strong opinions about it. But never forget who's his community. The community may not be you. You may be working on getting to a certain level to be an ultra-high net worth where, yes, cash is more trash the wealthier you get than when you're coming up. So don't take advice from people based on a phase you are not at yet. Take the advice from the person saying, hey, Mr. Dalio, if I'm at this level, how much cash do you think I need? If I'm starting a company and I don't have a lot of money, do you think I should get rid of all my cash and buy technology? Or do you think I should stay liquid? He's gonna give you advice to say, you gotta hang on to your cash because this is a different story. One blanket statement doesn't apply to everybody. It only applies to community. So you need another layer and another layer and another layer of question to be asked to get to what the real valid advice or counsel is to you in your phase of your life. So having said that, I got a couple things I want you to do. If you've not watched my interview with Ray Dalio, click on the link over here to watch that. It's a very, very different kind of an interview because we talk about China, Great Depression, economy, philosophy, his investment philosophy. Click on it again if you've not watched it to go through it. And if you want today's content that we covered in an infographic, maybe you want to look at it and say, listen, I want to become ultra high net worth. And you want to put this right next to your computer or on your screen or on your phone or print it out and share it with the people that you work with, sales guys, whoever it is. If you can text the word wealth to 310-340-1132. Again, wealth, text it to 310-340-1132. We'll text you back the infographic. And if you're not in the States, if you go in the description, click to subscribe to our newsletter. We'll send you the infographic as well. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, click over here to subscribe. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.